Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. With us today, Tim Daniels, Executive Chair at AIML Innovations, trades in Canada under AIML, and for friends of the US under AIMLF. And it's usually Beyond the Press Release, but today it's going to be Beyond the Press Releases because the company's had a number of major announcements since investing season began, which we like to say after Labor Day. For those who are new to the story, AIML Innovations is capitalizing on the burgeoning area of artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning, ML, with a focus on emerging companies in the digital healthcare space. A lot going on because the company's been engaged a lot of M&A and a lot of growth from that. Some things you should know: its key subsidiary, HealthGauge, is a bespoke personal health monitoring and management system that combines the latest wearable health monitors with sophisticated software tools. But their company is going beyond wearables. This isn't, your Apple Watch or your Samsung wearable kind of basic health monitoring. HealthGauge provides a secure and trusted means for clients to engage clinical resources, health coaching, and ongoing health management. So it's a real robust real-time data capture, provides fast feedback, and that results in much better recovering outcomes through the ability to make immediate and better decisions. And that also has a great impact on society because they're going to be helping, and this is going to be the trend for healthcare going forward this decade, we believe, but it's going to be helping reducing costs and stresses on overburdened healthcare systems all over the world, because they're helping out the old adage of an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And what you should also know is their business model is a B2B business model. That's the primary objective of the company overall. So if you have any concerns that, hey, how do they compete against Apple or Samsung and these guys? It's B2B focused. 3 big press releases have come out just since September 4th, since September 7th. Tim, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me back, George. It's always a pleasure.
Well, it's great because there's so much going on, and we're big believers that artificial intelligence, machine learning are going to play a significant role this decade in the way the world operates and in healthcare more than anything. So let's kind of recap where you're at, because you're building quite the M&A portfolio of health assets. You now have HealthGauge, which you own 70%. You've got Tech to Heal, which you own 22%, and you've got AIRX, which is a joint venture with Tech Heal in the U.S. Tech to Heal, where you own 70%.
That's right.
How are each of those going right now? Let's talk about just the
Sure.
general picture, how they're going, and then we'll get into some specifics.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a very busy time for us, which we're happy to say. First, let me talk a little bit, give some updates to your viewers on the HealthGauge side, because I know that that's been what we've talked about mostly on your program over the last many months, and we do have a couple new developments on the HealthGauge side that I think we should share with people. The first, we announced a new strategic partnership between HealthGauge and a company out of British Columbia called AI on Call. And AI on Call is a company that was set up by a team of doctors in South Central BC with a focus on an algorithm that they had developed, which helps them to predict and diagnose and prevent sepsis and other acute illnesses in seniors. And sepsis is a type of infection that is life-threatening. It's something that needs to be taken very, very serious. And one of the problems is that sepsis is generally quite treatable, but only if it's caught early enough. And what these doctors were frustrated with was that in so many cases they found patients of theirs in senior facilities that would have had a better outcome from their bout with sepsis had it been caught earlier. And so they came up with this algorithm which had proven itself to be very, very effective in helping to
spot it early,
prevent
just to
and
spot all those things
yeah,
early.
and you know, cut the number of deaths from sepsis, which is great. But they were missing a key piece, and that's that enable to early diagnose the sepsis, they had to be able to have a quick, cheap, 24-hour, you know, user-friendly tool that allowed them to monitor, you know, the basic vitals that they needed to monitor on these elderly patients, such as heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, their body temperature, oxygen saturation, and so on, which is exactly what our product, our Health Gauge Phoenix, measures. And so when the AI on Call group found our technology, they immediately, you know, came to us and said, you know, this is a perfect fit because, you know, we've got the software that's able to, you know, diagnose the sepsis early, so long as we've got the ability to actually catch it early, and we don't have the monitoring tool. And so Health Gauge has now partnered with AI on Call to deploy a joint technology that uses AI on Call's sepsis diagnosis algorithm in conjunction with our ability to monitor, you know, the basic key physiological indicators, and together come up with a solution that should cut the death rate among seniors from sepsis tremendously.
And that's the power of Health Gauge, right? Which is, you know, because up until you said all that, someone at home, casual observer, would say, well, why don't you just throw an Apple Watch on them or a Samsung somehow, then just monitor, you know, their heart rate and these things. But your hardware and your software integrating their software is able to actually utilize their algorithm to look specifically for the things they want to look for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the key is our package of software can and is being tailored to specific purposes such as this, such as sepsis in the elderly. And that's what makes it, you know, such an incredibly powerful tool. And of course, the other thing is that it's AI driven, which means that it learns, it gets smarter the more it's applied to scenarios like this, as opposed to a software driven solution like Apple. It's good for what it is, but if you feed in data 1 million times, the Apple Watch will spit out the same results 1 million times. It never learns. It never gets any smarter. Whereas our platform is AI driven, and so the power of that is that it learns as you feed more and more data into it from either one specific individual or across a large set of individuals. It's learning from that and becoming more intuitive, much in the same way that, you know, a good analogy, George, is the difference between a brand new doctor who's, you know, kind of on his first day at work, fresh out of medical school. He's got the academic knowledge, but he doesn't have the life experience yet. So he's not intuitive yet. And compare that doctor with a doctor who's been doing it for 20 or 30 years. And that doctor has built up this, you know, this lifetime of experience that assists in his ability to make rapid decisions. And that's kind of the difference between just software-driven solutions like an Apple Watch and artificial intelligence-driven solutions like what we have. So it's a big, big difference.
And the amazing thing is that this is, you know, I mean, it's a great agreement, it's a great partnership, but this is just one in southern BC. And there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of these opportunities just all over North America.
Right. So if North America wide, you're talking about a market of about 60 million seniors throughout North America who could absolutely benefit from this solution. And so it is it's a broad and deep market for sure. And that is just one specific application that Health Gauge is now being tailored towards. I'll give you another example. Another partnership that we've just recently entered into with Health Gauge is with Trinity Western University. And there's a pilot project that is beginning now at Trinity Western. And the purpose of this is to study the Health Gauge solution as a method to aggregate data specifically tailored towards high-end athletics. So in the case of Trinity Western University, they're going to be using our Health Gauge solution with their athletic programs. So the men and women's soccer team, hockey team, volleyball, track and field, and basketball.
Amazing.
Where they're going to be using our solution as a training tool to improve the performance of high-end athletics. Once that pilot project has been completed, and we understand exactly to what benefit and how our tool has been best, remolded for that specific purpose. Of course, the goal is to then capitalize on the commercial opportunity in lucrative high-end
athletic departments all over North America.
Exactly, which is a huge industry. So that is another area of focus that the Health Gauge product is now being studied. And so that's one of the beauties of this technology, is that it is easily reconfigured to fit into many different scenarios. We've talked before on your show about the study that was done in Bangladesh that was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and that was studying pregnant women in rural settings to test the efficacy of our product with those women for high blood pressure, because high blood pressure causes serious complications to both the pregnant woman and to the unborn child. And in fact, in the developing world, is the #1 cause of death. And what they found through this study was that, yeah, absolutely, our product had great efficacy in being able to help monitor and therefore prevent serious illness and death in the unborn child and pregnant women by reconfiguring our product for that sort of scenario. And again, these are each and every one of these areas are company builders on their own.
But they're unbelievable, and that's what I love about Health Gauge. It's B2B or B2 institutional, and once you really prove that you work in certain verticals, then it's just sky's the limit at that point.
Exactly.
You're not competing to get George a customer. You're getting 500 customers or 10,000 customers at one time.
Exactly. That's the whole beauty of it, is you sign up one customer, being the B2B strategic partner, and through that one customer, you have access to thousands, tens of thousands of paying customers. So it's that's working smart rather than working hard. And so that continues to be the business model. And there's many more of these sorts of pilot projects that are in the wings being worked on right now, and we will continue to.
Tim, how are they finding you? That's the interesting part here. I mean, these are great ones that you're already telling us about. They're obviously, what you just said, they're more in the wings, right? Mm-hmm. How are they finding? Because you're still a small tech company, right? But obviously the word is getting out about you guys. Is it that you have a great lead management team, or is it also a combination of the world's just looking for these solutions and they're finding you? How's that discovery process?
Yeah, so all of the above is the absolute correct answer. In some cases, there's been companies who have come to us because the set of companies out there doing what we do are much smaller than you might think. And again, there are the Apple Watches and the Fitbits out there, and they're really good for what they are. But
Sure.
what they are
Yeah.
not is what we're doing, as described with these different programs that we're talking about.
I mean,
And so,
predictive. Your hardware and software is predictive versus
right.
everybody else, which is all right. Right now, my heart rate is 75, and my blood, and
Yeah.
great, and I just get to monitor and see how many steps I took today. But
Right.
you're
And
predictive.
predictive is absolutely one key area, but more than just predictive, they are aggregating data that is then shared across a network that needs to be included in the decision-making process, which doesn't exist with your Apple Watch. So go to the Apple store and buy an Apple Watch, and say to the 18-year-old, part-time student who sold you the Apple Watch in the store, ask him, after I buy this watch, how do I aggregate all the data and upload it to my medical team so that they're able to, help me make decisions on my behalf? And he'll stare at you like this for a minute or two and say, would you like an iPad to go with that, sir? These are retail products.
Yeah.
They're not,
and we're not knocking them, but they have
not knocking them because they're great at what they are. But what they're not designed to do is to be a health tool that creates a real scenario in which you and your medical team and your family members and anybody else that you believe needs to be a part of the decision-making process, regarding your state of health, can all have access to immediate and actionable information that is predictive and is aggregated over a long period of time.
I mean, that's just the way the world's got to go, and you're at the tip of the spear.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's an incredibly powerful tool in the toolkit of the healthcare team, because again, today, right now, okay, I went in for my last physical checkup. I usually go every 18 months or so when I remember, but of course, the last time it was supposed to roll around was about in the middle of the pandemic. So of course that was impossible. So now it's probably going on 3 years since I've had my last checkup. When I had my last checkup, of course, they throw on a blood pressure cuff. And at that one moment of time,
Right.
they read my blood pressure and it was great. But how indicative is that of what my blood pressure is throughout the normal course of a day, while I'm working, while I'm stressed, while I'm asleep, while I'm hungry, while I'm cold, and so on? You don't know any of that from a once a year or once every 3 year medical exam with your doctor. And so,
and your blood pressure's off, by the way, because you've been waiting in a doctor room for 2 hours. You're kind of pissed off, so you haven't get an accurate reading for that moment in time.
Exactly. And so how reliable is that one reading? Yeah, probably, it is what it is. It was one snapshot in time, but it isn't indicative of you in the normal course of your day and how your blood pressure will fluctuate. I'll give you a real life example. It just happened to me about a month ago. I went into my dentist office. I had to have some surgery done. I had to have a tooth removed. So of course they use freezing, local anesthetic. When the procedure was done and the doctor had left the room to finish some paperwork and so on, and I had a few minutes, and I was still sitting there in the chair. And so I had my watch on. And so, I just fiddled with it and I checked my blood pressure at that moment. And funny, because my blood pressure is always rock steady. I know what my blood pressure is going to be. And fortunately, knock on wood, it's really, really good. But when I measured it at that moment, my blood pressure was up about 15 points over what it normally is, which is really, for me, quite unusual and a little bit alarming. And just at that moment, my dentist walked back into the office. Actually, it wasn't a dentist; it was a surgeon, because it was surgical removal. So the surgeon walks into the office, and he sees me, you know, playing with my Phoenix, and he said, "Oh, what do you got there?" And so we talked about it, and I mentioned that I just measured my blood pressure, and it was about 15 points higher than what it normally would be, and I was puzzled by that. And he said, "Don't be alarmed, that's normal." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, the local anesthesia that we use will raise your blood pressure by that amount." And so I would have never have known that were it not for me having the Phoenix on, because of course I can't feel that. So I said to him, "Well, could that be a concern if you've got a patient who's sitting in your chair who's hypertensive, who has high blood pressure, as normal course before the surgery, and by having the surgery and by having this freezing, pushes them up into, the danger zone. Is that, of concern?" And he said, "Yeah, it absolutely can be." And that's why when we have a patient who we, suspect or believe might be subject to high blood pressure, we will monitor that as we're doing the tooth extraction, because of this, because it will raise your blood pressure. He said, "But I knew that wasn't your case, so we didn't bother to do that with you." But there was a real life example of how I didn't feel it, because, and this is one of the issues with high blood pressure, is that it's normally not something that you will feel until it's too late.
Until it gets really, really bad.
Yeah, you'll feel it when you've actually had a heart attack or a stroke or something like that. It's why they call it, the silent killer. And so having something like this on just brought it into focus for me that, hey, this is really giving me some meaningful feedback on something that I never was even aware of. I never even suspected that by sitting in the dentist chair, I could, be, subjected to having higher blood pressure as a part of that procedure. And if you're somebody who normally has high blood pressure to begin with, it might be something that might be a little concerning for you if you're going in for some dental work. But I would have never have known that had I not had this on. So just, a simple little real life example of how, throwing this on your wrist can give you that immediate actionable feedback. One of my friends was on the golf course a week or two back, and was feeling a little lightheaded on one of the holes, and so between holes, he checked, his blood pressure was high and his temperature was high, and so he decided to sit out a couple holes, and sure enough, after 15-20 minutes sitting, his blood pressure came back down, his body temperature reading came back down, and he felt well enough to get back on the course and finish his round again. So again, had he not done that, he probably would have been okay. But then you also hear about the guys dropping over on the golf course with a heart attack.
And I'm assuming he didn't have a health gauge on. He didn't have one on, so he wouldn't have known. Like he had to wait until it got really bad.
Exactly.
Whereas if he had a health gauge, it would have either notified him or it would have gone back to his medical team or whatever the case is.
Exactly right.
And if we ended it there, we'd say, okay, this is going great. So keep us updated on how these trials and pilots are going. But then you've also got, which is really cool, you complete the transaction to acquire a significant interest in digital mental health provider Tech to Heal. And then you're launching through a JV, some operations in the US. So not only are you on the physical side, but tell us about how you're also monitoring the mental side.
Sure. So we finished an acquisition in a company, as you mentioned, called Tech to Heal, which is out of Paris, France. And we bought 22% interest in their global operation, but controlling interest, 70% interest in the North American rights to the products. So that's our sweet spot on this deal is controlling the North American rights. So what Tech to Heal has is a basket of mental wellness and health tech products that are designed to improve individuals' mental well-being by utilizing a unique blend of proprietary digital assets, remote live counseling, and physical wellness centers.
And they're already very successful, we should mention, for new people.
They absolutely are. They had an earlier version of the platform that they had historical revenue of about $4 million over the last 2.5 years or so, and working with a handful of major insurance companies throughout Europe, like Malakoff, Humanis, Mappa, Apicil, and some other companies that are major European-based insurance companies. And from that, they realized over $4 million in revenue. In June, they launched the new version, the new platform, new and improved and better in every way. And in the first month of operation of the new platform, they signed 3 contracts, 2 of them with 2 major health insurance companies, and 1 with an industrial company out of France that has about 170,000 employees globally, and it's a multi-year agreement to supply mental health counseling to all of their employees globally. So 3 really good contracts that collectively should be worth conservatively about $5 million over the life of those contracts. And that's what they signed in the first month of rolling out the new platform in June of this year. They have several more strategic partnerships that are in discussion right now, that they're doing product demos with right now, and that they're setting up some pilots with, that we will be announcing over the course of the next month or 2 as well. So there's a lot going on the mental health side, and the mental health is the new pandemic. There's been numerous studies done, numerous studies that have shown that about half of workers, and of course it's the same whether you're talking about an employee or everyone else, the rest of us out there, we all, I believe, have suffered some degradation in our mental health over the last year and a half because of the situation with the pandemic. And in these recent studies, about half of the workers surveyed say their mental state is at some worsened state than what it was a year ago. And the numbers right across the board bear that out. When you look at incidences of suicide, depression, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, spousal abuse, and so on, all those numbers are up dramatically throughout the world. And so we've all suffered from this pandemic. And that's not going away anytime soon. And so companies like Tech to Heal have this basket of products where they're able to, again, on a B2B side, this is their primary focus, go to these major industrial companies and these insurers and offer them the ability to provide mental wellness and everything from the medical interventions with psychiatrists through to work with psychologists and health coaches, where they're doing mind and body healing techniques like yoga and art therapy and so on. And so everything from the lowest level of well-being and wellness therapy right up through to treating the hardcore depression and anxiety cases that need psychotherapy treatment by psychiatrists. And the other
and you're able you're able to get this done. Again, going back to the example we used before on the physical side, if I go in and see a psychiatrist, it's a snapshot in time versus now it's real time, long term monitoring and some analytics and predictive that comes out of this, right?
Right, absolutely. As well as the fact that you have the ability to enjoy the use of these benefits through the privacy and security and comfort of your own surroundings, rather than going into a clinic and so on.
Yeah.
Because there still is, unfortunately,
Sure.
a lot of stigma that's attached to mental health issues, and so for individuals.
Plus, sometimes if you need if you have an issue there, waiting to get an appointment, to drive somewhere, to wait can exacerbate the problem. But if I can do it through a platform, a mobile digital platform, it just brings down the anxiety. You get faster help to somebody. I mean, the benefits are just enormous by several magnitudes.
They certainly are. And in fact, other studies have shown that this is good at the corporate level, because having well employees equals having a well company. Your employees are your business, and if your employees are suffering, the business suffers. And so the studies have shown that for every $1 that employers are investing in mental health of their employees, it's returning $4 in improved work facilities.
Wow, so it's not even an expense anymore. It's not like, okay, we'll add this as a benefit. So it's you're getting a real world, you're getting a real world benefit
as a business owner for taking care of the mental wellness of your employees. It pays to spend that money, number one. So employers are starting to understand that this is a good investment. And number two, governments understand that as well, and are also taking the reins on this. So, for example, in Europe, the EU is mandating that insurers and employers have to pay for digital mental wellness and therapy to the same extent that they're paying for the physical wellness. So now that that's being mandated starting in 2022, the insurers have to pay and the employers have to pay. And so, as you know, employees are more willing to use a service if it's coming out of the employer's pocket or the employer's pocket, which makes sense. And so we believe that there's going to be, some tremendous traction in the platform for Tech to Heal going forward. We're also rolling out now on the US side. We're in some really good
Right, you're taking a proven model, and you're moving, and you own 70% or so of that of that joint venture for the US. So the great thing is you're taking an existing successful model and rolling into the US market.
The successful model, the successful products, the successful platform, and rolling that into the world's biggest market, who has already accepted that digital wellness is an important part of any healthcare system going forward. So so we're expecting big things off the US side of the operation as well.
Hey Tim, oh sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
I was going to say, last question for you. Market acceptance. Just if you can help us out, just give us what you see. Is artificial intelligence, machine learning now gotten to that inflection point where George.com conglomerate used to think, well, it might be a good idea, but let's just keep doing the standard stuff we're doing. But is it now at the point where they're saying, hey, you know what? Let's get on AIML and start incorporating that. We need that into so is it gotten to the point where the number crunchers, the human, the HR department, the medical side have all said we need better tools in the past? And if so, how well does that bode for the future of the company?
Yeah, so AI/ML is becoming ubiquitous in business and in the world around us. It's being applied every day to more and more and more industries, and companies are realizing that there's efficiencies that they never believed possible without AI that they're now enjoying with AI, and so companies have come to the realization that they have to do it because their competition is. So there's no doubt that artificial intelligence is not going away, and in fact, it's becoming so standard fare that it's taken as a given now across almost every business, and more industries are joining that fray every month. So yeah.
Well, that's great to know, because then we have a lot to look forward to, in the quarter ahead, in the year ahead, for AIML. Tim, thanks so much for joining us and giving us all that insight. I'm excited because Agoracom's gone on the record that this decade is going to be the greatest decade for small cap wealth creation, because of the convergence of technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, wearables, all those things that are going to create entire new verticals that we never ever imagined before. And small companies are the ones that are going to be able to really make a dent, like you guys, because it's no longer the playground of the rich and famous and the super capitalized. Small companies can be nimble and get the job done. So I can't wait to have you back on and see what more you guys are going to do.
I'm always happy to come back, George. I really enjoy these talks.
To everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Tim Daniels, he's executive chair at AIML Innovations, artificial intelligence, machine learning. That's why I love that name. Trades in Canada under AIML. And for our friends in the US, AIMLF. Do your due diligence, guys. If you believe in the future of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and healthcare and the convergence, then you've got to do your due diligence to find out what you think the role that AIML is going to play in the future. Start that by going to Agoracom, take a look at the profile page, and then from there, hopping over to the company's website to do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and then leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel so you don't ever miss another great Agoracom small cap video.